Northern on the line with us as we get ready for the week of football. Coach, how you doing, my man?
Oh, everything going pretty good. I done got some first day of school out the way for old Adam and Brooke, and we looking forward to, great things from those two. And the neighborhood then got busy and it got quiet in the evenings. Normally, we get home, between 5 and 8. It sounds like the Astros playing in the World Series around there with all the kids playing and stuff. But, it's good to have them back in school, getting into the routine. And, for Adam, this is his last one, and this is Brooks' last year of middle school. So it's a good time in the Northern household. But we wrapped up with a good father and son fishing trip he and I had last Friday. And like you say, we looking forward to the school year and good things and seeing where's he going to end up next year.
Now, did you protect the old folks, man, and outfish your son?
You know what? I can't say I did, Mike. Now he's a fishing son of a gun. So, I had Coach Harrelson's son with me, with us as well. His birthday was the next day after the fishing trip. So he tagged along, and I tried to make sure he caught the first fish. Adam by far caught the most, and I came away with the biggest. So it was everybody had a little bit of fun. But, I don't know if you know anything about fishing, but the fish was schooling, and we were catching them on top water. Anybody that knows anything about fishing, that's the most exciting way you can catch fish.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, everybody got something out of it, so it ended up being an overall good trip. Speaking of a good trip, man, the guys from FAMU and Norfolk State headed to the ATL. A lot of them with slight clouds hanging over the program, if the truth be told. How are you assessing this matchup for this week?
Well, you know what? I think, Coach Odom has those guys going in the right direction, I believe. But like I say, in this transfer portal world, you don't know if the guys that he had that started playing well for him are still there. And then Sam with the head coaching change, and then they recently let go of the athletic director. That it's easy to say the kids have to focus on football, but when things are not going the way that they usually go or the way that they should go, that can throw a wrinkle into the head coach's, I would say, authority. Or, okay, coach been telling us this, and now things have changed. So we notice a change maybe in the food. We notice a change in the practice time. We notice a change in the way that the trainer or the administrators have been acting with and towards the football. But like I say, it's easy to say focus on football. And I would tell people this as a head coach. Everybody has to be on the same page when it comes to the student athletes, because if I tell a young man something and then you tell him something different, you basically undermining, to me, the authority or the discipline of the head coach when things don't go as planned. Even, something as small as dealing with housing. If a young man don't feel comfortable, how you expect that man to go out there and practice well if he hadn't been in his room, the air conditioner not working, he had a problem with his meal plan. All that type of stuff people don't realize goes into having a good football team, believe it or not.
Oh, I do understand. It makes me ask this question. I know there's no proven scientific facts on this. How long does it take for a team to make that necessary adjustment to get the focus back on football?
Well, some guys can easily adjust, and you try to tell them as a coach, control what you can control. We can't control the weather, but at the same time, guys will look at you. I say as a coach, they will look at you a little funny when you tell them, okay, the cafeteria is going to be open at 7 o'clock. Those guys wake up early in the morning, and then they get to the cafeteria, and the cafeteria is not open. You see what I'm saying? Some guys can say, man, I done been through so much in life that this cafeteria not being open not going to bother me. But it's some guys that have had everything laid out for them the way that it's supposed to go, or they've been at other schools and they see the way that things were done where they were, if they were done the right way, that it may take some of those guys a little bit longer. But your tougher guys that don't care about nothing about football, all you got to do is say down, said hut, and they ready to go. But there's some guys, like you say, you got to know which ones to pat on the back and which ones to kick in the butt to get them going. And sometimes them jokers, truth be told, sometimes, man, them jokers need a hug, Coach.
And I guess that's not as easy to gauge in the recruiting process, because that's one of them real-life response time reactions that you can gauge a guy as far as their internal toughness, huh?
Yeah, but the thing is, now, and I'm not going to just say now, but, you'll ask the coach when you're recruiting a kid. That's why you have to know about the family background. Like, is the dad in the household? Because in my opinion, if the dad is in the household, that kid has been disciplined by a man before. A lot of times when there's no man in the household, the only person that will discipline that kid will be the high school football coach. And the high school football coach, if that kid is real good, is not going to go out of his way to discipline that kid. He's going to go out of his way to make sure that kid can play on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, as opposed to, I got to make sure this joker is doing the right thing in the hallway, make sure his grades are in order, and all that type of stuff. So, but we do ask as coaches, and I'm speaking like I'm still coaching, we do ask, like, can this kid take a butt chewing, or is he a pat on the back kid? Some kids, and I'll put it like this, when I worked on the high school level, I had some kids that had never had male authority in their life, or they would say, Coach, I've never had a man of color or a black man curse to me while he's been talking to me or disciplining me. So, like I say, I had to make an adjustment on how I talk to kids, and I would have to tell other coaches, like, hey, man, you can't say that to that kid. He's never been fussed at by a man. So, you have to take that into consideration, though.
Now, I know this is going to sound somewhat controversial to some that may be listening, but it's something that I've experienced, and I'm not professing to be an expert in this particular category. But when you bring up the male interacting with other males in their upbringing, I've seen and noticed that when a young man has a strong male figure in his life, whether it's his father, uncle, brother, or someone in the community, they have a tendency to handle and adjust to adversity a little bit different than a guy who may not have had that opportunity.
I would agree with that, but at the same time, I'm going to tell you two quick things. So sometimes when I talk to Adam, I tell him I'm talking to you as a coach, not your dad. So, and my wife will remind me on occasion that, hey, sometimes, lower your voice or talk softer to him, because you don't want to always come across as the butt kicker. The other thing is, and like you talk about the adjustment, so Adam went to a camp at North Carolina A&T, an academic camp. He got locked out of his room the first night. He didn't know that once he left to go use the restroom, the door was going to lock behind him. So, Mike, this joker got locked out of his room, I'll say 11:30 at night. Didn't call me, didn't call his mama. That joker had on a hoodie and found a chair and slept outside until he could get back in, not outside, but outside of his room until he could get back in his room to get his clothes and stuff the next morning. So as a dad, I'm happy as I don't know what, because he didn't call. And then the other thing he said, it could have been worse. So that lets me know. I told him, I said, man, you headed in the right direction. So, that goes to that adjustment. Now, some kids, they would have been calling their mama. They would have been calling the campus police. They would have been calling the camp director. It's like different things for the adjustment period of kids. And all of that goes into how are they going to adjust as a football player. Okay, we get to practice, the field not lined. Okay, we get to practice, and the trainer's out there late. Oh, we don't have ice. We got to drink hot water. And that has happened at some HBCUs that I've been at. So for people thinking, oh, man, that'll never happen, it has happened. So, how would those kids adjust to, okay, we still got to get this work in, and then we'll get back to whatever it is, the problem, we'll get that problem rectified for the next time.
Yes, sir. And those are the things that carry you off the field in life when your playing days are over.
Yes, sir. And like I say, it teaches you a different grind. Certain things don't bother you when you have, like you say, man, I done seen way worse than that.
Right. Well, it's building that thickness to move on in life. And when you size up this weekend's game coming up, who do you see having the greater advantage with the circumstances that both teams are bringing, and who do you see possibly winning this game?
Well, I say it depends on how that weather has affected both of their training camps with a couple of storms that have been up and down the East Coast. You know, have they been able to get the conditioning in that they needed? Did they have access to a gym where they still can get a decent practice in and still get their conditioning in? If I had to pick, I would still say FAM probably has the edge just because of, I think they coming from a winning mindset. Norfolk is, coming into the game thinking that they can win. FAM, I think, is going to go into the game knowing that they can win because they still have some pieces that made them successful last year.
Well, I'm a huge Dawson Odom fan. I really, people don't know what that man had to deal with and overcome while at Southern. I know you being a Southern alum got more eyes on the program than I would, but I really admired how he dealt with stuff that people couldn't even imagine. And I always said that when he left, I thought it was not probably to the best of Southern's advantage to let him go, but, things happen where they happen. And I thought with the layout of the MEAC, that he could possibly get Norfolk where they need to be before Southern can get dealing with the obstacles in the SWAC as far as getting to that Celebration Bowl. Do you still see that as a possible inside lane for him?
Yeah, I think the road to the Celebration Bowl is a lot easier in the MEAC. But like we talked about last week, when you talk about tradition, Norfolk's tradition does not match up with Southern. So in some instances, it'll be easier to get a Southern turned around more, I would say, than a Norfolk State just because of the history. But at the same time, Coach Odom went there with a lot of experience, some scabs on his skin, and he knows, all right, I've been through this situation. This is how I can rectify that because of what has happened here. Southern has went through quite a few coaches in the last few years, and now it's Coach Graves' turn to see if he can get the shit right. And he'll know a little bit better how to operate in Baton Rouge, having been, I think this is his third time around, that he will know who to call, what button to push, let me stay away from that. Like they say, win, what's important now. Some of the things that you and I may think are important may not be big in the scheme of Southern University football.
Right. Well, it'll all be settled on this weekend from the MEAC SWAC Challenge. And traditionally, the SWAC always seem to come out the gate good in the MEAC SWAC Challenge, at least somewhat competitive. It's that one at the end, the Celebration Bowl, that we're trying to get over the hump. Thank goodness for FAMU breaking that streak. Yes,
sir. And, like I say, for a while, I think the physicalness of the MEAC conference has, early on in the challenge led to them coming out ahead. But now I think things are evening out with some departures from some of the MEAC schools, and then just the SWAC schools investing in, the strength and conditioning program, as well as signing more offensive and defensive linemen as opposed to having 4 and 5 quarterbacks on scholarship. Some schools are going to, we're going to take 2 and then we're academic 2 and then save the rest of that football money for the, like I say, the big nasties up front that make the small guys look good.
Yes, sir. And it's ironic how you just talked about quarterbacks, because my next point of topic was going to be the following week, Labor Day Classic. We're excited to have you part of the broadcast team for this 39th annual Labor Day Classic. And a lot of those scuttlebutt has been who's going to quarterback, in particular for the Prairie View A&M University Panthers. Now, I know that coaches hold their depth charts close to the vest, Everything is in secret, top missions, plans. But from outside looking in, and I hope I'm pronouncing the man's name, is it Coley or Cooley from U of H, who came in from Prairie View, or came into Prairie View.
Yes, sir.
From outside looking in, you would have to point to him being where he's coming from based on what Prairie View has had, and to go out and invite this man to come in after spring game, just from a logical perspective, could we not say that's the one on the inside lane right now?
You know what? I would say yes, but at the same time, God dog it, if we wasn't talking, the other young man that was there in the spring, he probably would have played last year from the junior college, I want to say in Mississippi.
Johnson?
So he definitely would have played last year. But with the change in the offensive coordinator, which he had a chance to go through spring with him, but at the same time, you don't turn down a kid of college pedigree coming from U of H. You understand what I'm saying? You know, it's sort of one of those, no matter where he came from with his pedigree, you still take that kid almost no matter who you have, because with everybody running RPOs, you one quarterback zone read away from losing your quarterback, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's you always take a kid like that. But I would personally give the inside track to the young man that would have played last year had he been not ruled in Elsbeth at the last minute, and that went through spring football with him. So I would give him the inside track over the U of H transfer. But like I say, sometimes when you get a transfer in, he may get the reps may be divided. I'll say in a 15-play period, it may go 6, 3, 3, and the freshman may get 1 or 2. Well, with a transfer, you might go 6, 6, and then 3, and knowing that you're going to redshirt the freshman from full. You understand? So now you divide the reps up, and then one practice, you may say, okay, Johnson, you are going to get the first team reps. Kylie, you're going to get the second. And then you flip those around the next day, so everybody gets a chance to work with the first team offensive line, the first team receivers. Or you may have a situation where you say, man, that second team guy is giving our first team defense the blues in practice. Let's keep him there, knowing that we have something good coming up. And if a guy can handle the mental side of not getting a lot of reps, sometimes you keep it that way, knowing that you got a good one. Like they say, you got an ace in your back pocket that don't nobody know about.
Right. And to play devil's advocate in that same content, just because a guy is coming from a Power 4 situation does not automatically, and let me rephrase that, unless you're an offensive, defensive lineman, does not automatically give you an advantage, in particular in your skill positions, because you're playing down. Some people have a tendency to look down on FCS competition, which is very stiff and highly competitive, but a lot of people assume that this would be a no-brainer from that guy stepping down.
Not from the skill position standpoint, because it's a lot of guys in the SWAC that, and it's been proven by looking at the transfers that have left the SWAC at the cornerback and wide receiver spot, that have now played themselves into SEC and Big 12, Big 10 football. So I don't think we can track one offensive lineman. Maybe it's some defensive linemen that have moved up and had success, but you can't really think about the offensive linemen that have moved on from the SWAC and gone on to have great success. Like you say, an edge pass rusher is an edge pass rusher when he wake up out the bed. A lockdown corner is a lockdown corner when he touched the sideline for wherever he goes. So it's a lot easier. But those skill position guys seem to adjust better when they move up than the guys that are the bigger guys per se.
Okay, and you made me think, and his name is escaping me right now. PV grad, ended up going to K-State, defensive back. Now he's in the Canadian League. just got an injury. He was with the Montreal Alouettes. Man, wreaking havoc. As a matter of fact, he's somewhat of an intimidator enforcer. And then help me call his name, Coach. Oh my goodness.
It'll come soon as you don't think about it. But if you think about it, look, two years in a row, Prairie View had a safety that left and went to Kansas State and ended up playing big time for him. So that lets you know the caliber of guys.
Stubblefield.
Yes.
Oh, man.
The caliber of guys that they had on the roster. You know, like say, you look at the Texas Southern cornerback that left, went to Houston, and now I think he's going to be the starting cornerback at Auburn or somewhere, Ole Miss. You know, so it's some guys from the conference that are, you know, betting on themselves and performing, you know, as they thought they should coming out of high school. But, you know, like you say, you're not seeing that from the O-line position.
Right. Now, let's go back to this Labor Day Classic real quick, Coach, from your coaching perspective, because you'll always be a coach. You're talking about you feel like you're coaching, but you'll always be a coach. What in particular, other than execution, would you be looking for as far as advantages to take or exploit on one side of the ball or the other?
The special teams game. Who can block a kick? Who can get a big kickoff, a punt return? Who can not get a big penalty? That's the big thing, is who can not get a penalty called against them and get a big run back taken away because they blocked somebody in the back or hell. And then, you know, making sure you have the right amount of people on the field. So I'll tell you like this. I know that Coach McDowell had his guys, like when they practice special teams, okay, such and such is not on the field, who's his backup? Okay, we going from defense to punt safe. Okay, they call a timeout, they not gonna punt, then we're gonna put our punt return team back on the field because they took their offense off. You know, different things like that they practice. So can you have the right amount of people on the field and making sure you don't have too many with a guy say, oh, such and such was hurt. I was in for him last time. Now I got to check and make sure that I'm out once he does get the trainer's approval to go back in the game. So you can see a game swing on too many men on the field, not having enough men on the field, and the ball always finds a way to go right where that guy belongs. So,
no doubt.
You know, that situational football, and you know, in my conversation with the coaches that I'll have before the game, that's one of the things I'll ask. All right, take the turnover differential out of the equation. What's the one thing that you'll look at and say, Texas Southern or Prairie View won because we did this or because they didn't do that?
Okay. Now, we always have good crowd participation, turnout, and I know your job as a coach and as a player is to execute regardless who's in the stands or not. But from your experience, what percentage would you say weighs a factor if you got a good, strong crowd for your team's performance?
I think I think the crowd helps you more on defense than any factor of the football game, because if you have a loud crowd, you can affect how do they snap the ball. Do they have to hold hands in order to get the center or the tackle from not jumping offside? Do you get the guys jumping a little bit? Do they have to go to a clap or a silent count? You know, it's different things like that. If you have a good crowd, you know, sometimes you can't even hear the audibles if the crowd is loud. And I always go back to, even though it's a neutral site game, the Bayou Classic, where we could not hear on the headset. And, you know, we pretty much had to get right next to each other and shout into each other's ears to get plays or to communicate with each other. Or, you know, depending on if they're going to let the band play or not. So I think the crowd helps your defense way more than it does the offensive side of the ball. You know, when you get a big play after offense, you know, a guy can make a dive and one-hand catch. That may last 3 to 5 seconds. But if you got a good crowd behind you and you playing defense and the whole while the offense is under center or whatever, you got the crowd hollering defense, whatever chant they have, that makes a difference to me, to the defensive guys. And, it just gives you that extra little step or two. It makes the offensive lineman hold his stance, and then you'll see that joker just lean back a little bit, and then they get a personal foul, and you go from 3rd and 8 to 3rd and 13. That's a big difference to an offensive coordinator.
Right. Now, you made the mention in reference toward the band, and I've always had a deal like home field advantage is home field advantage. And if you can get the band and the crowd going together to cause that chaos and disruption, as a coach, do you have a problem with the band that continues to play, in particular if you're at home or on the road, as far as you're being able to execute your plays?
Now, long as I'm not on offense and defense, you can signal, and guys can look around and move a little bit more, because most of the time on defense, you call a play and you have trips or empty adjustment, and that's it. On offense, they might cycle through 3 plays in that 30 seconds. All right, they may have a double play call. They may have a run pass call, a running play call, and a pass play. Okay, we get this cover 2 look. This is the running play. So now they have to communicate, this is the running play that we're going to, and the snap count. If they get a cover 1 or a cover 3 look, this is the pass play we're going to, and the snap count. So it's different things like that if you got the band playing. But defense, like you say, it's called, and then we might make what we call a locket call. So once that play is called, if it's a blitz, we going to blitz no matter what formation they come in, and then your safeties are what we call the adjusters. So now nobody has to say anything, just those 2 safeties have to know, all right, I may have to go to the strong side or the weak side based on the formation. But I love the band playing as long as we on defense. And sometimes, man, it would be so hard at some of the different schools that I've been at to get them jokers to realize, play when we on defense. I don't care, play while we on, and just getting them to understand, like, hey, man, you never play when we on offense. And then I remember one game, the offense was on the end right in front of the band. And, man, it seemed like I never heard the band play so loud. And now we got to shush them and, hey, man, please stop playing while we on offense. So I've seen signs where it says, like, quiet offense at work, and then on defense is, be as loud as you can be.
Well, see, the problem with that, though, that I'm seeing is now the officiating has come to the point to where they're saying, look, the band, you're playing too loud, the opposing offense cannot adjust, and they start penalizing the home team. And I have a problem with that.
You know what? I am in agreement with not the penalty, but play until you get a couple of warnings. And then as a coach, you act like you trying to quiet the band down. But I have personally talked to band directors, like, look, is there anything that you can play where it's not the whole band, where it's just, you may just have your tubas playing or your brass instruments playing with no drums, and then the next time let your drums do something where it's not the whole band or whatever, So it's different ways, like you acting like you trying to get the band. But I've already talked to, Doug may have already talked to the band director at Grand, like, when we on defense play loud, but just certain people play, not the whole band, so we don't get penalized.
Right, and I think that's part of that. We always talk about the culture building, the fan experience, the entertainment factor. But sometimes these games become like you're sitting at a opera or something and just enjoying the elegant music playing, and that's kind of boring.
Man, I would almost, if I was, see if there's any way I could ban cell phones at the game, because and you'll see it. You look at the screen, and people don't even know they on the big screen because they looking down at their phone. They checking the Twitters and the Instagrams. during the game. So, and then I think some of it goes back to culture. And like I say, I know we don't like saying it, but just the buy-in of supporting other people that look like us and knowing the situation of football. I think sometimes, and I'll put this on the black men, sometimes it's like they'll get into the game, but it's like if they really get into it, they feel a certain way about cheering on other guys, you know. But if they win the game, it's quick to be like, we did this. But if they don't win, it's y'all or you and all that. But it's a lot of different things that go into it. Just, hey, let's, you know, almost, and not to say, you know, I don't really like Texas A&M per se, but, you know, let's have something on a Friday in the gym, and let's let these kids learn the alma mater. Let's let these kids learn the fight song. Okay, when the band does this, this is what we gonna do. Different types of things, and you know, like I say, even in the football program, you know, I know when I really don't know Southern's alma mater, you know, what they say word for word, but in order for us to leave practice, we had to sing the fight song. So because it was like we were charged with fighting for the university. So that was our thing, learning the fight song. And, you know, we all stood there at the end of the game with our hand raised. But I'll tell you, 7 out of 10 people that played football at Southern didn't know. And same thing, you know, at Prairie View, I would say, look, when our guys got the playbook when I was there and when I was at Grambling, we put the fight song and the alma mater in the playbook. At Grambling, in order to leave the university, we had to sing the alma mater, and like everybody, coaches and all, had to sing the alma mater before they loaded the buses and stuff. So it's like, it's just a different traditions at different schools. But I'm real big into let's get our tradition, but let's teach these kids how to support the football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is. Let's teach these kids how to support in a better way than what they're doing now.
Well, it's funny that you say that. A few years ago, I was a keynote speaker at the Honor Society at Prairie View, and these were supposed to be the elite of the elite, right? So I was feeling in a jovial entrepreneur philanthropist mood, right? So it was, I think it might have been 10, 12 students who were acknowledging. So what I said, each one of you guys who can sing the alma mater, start to finish, I'll give you $200. You know, I walked away with all that money in my pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, and I bet if you went to somebody that graduated before, I say 80 or 90,
right?
You know, you wouldn't have had enough money to get out of there. You'd have got your head bust open. So it's just a little bit different, the changing of the times, but we'll get it right.
Yeah, we will. I do remind me of one other, and we're gonna wrap this up. I was at the bookstore. A young lady was admiring, you know, everything's overpriced at the bookstore, and I try to support, but I can only buy so much from the bookstore. But she was admiring this item. I said, "That's a nice item, isn't it?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "It's kind of pricey though." I said, "If you could sing the alma mater, I'll buy it for you." Struggle, coach.
Yeah.
So, and that's part of that winning tradition. And when I say winning, we know the academia piece is going to always be there, but that winning on the field. And sometimes when you lose, you win because it's how you play. And we used to say, I don't even know if you all did this, but we used to say at the start and the end of each game, we'll say all for one, all for Prairie View, all for Prairie View for all. And what you gonna do? Fight like hell to win. What you gonna do? Fight like hell to win. And you just get fired up, man. There's something magical. And even in my old age right now, man, I hear that, think about it. I get a bit emotional and even teary-eyed, Coach.
Yes, sir. It's certain things that hit you a certain way.
Well, speaking of getting hit a certain way, man, I know you got all your analytic jargon all together, man, and the atmosphere is slowly but surely creeping up. We're looking forward to hearing you guys do your thing for this 2024 campaign. Do you have any closing thoughts or comments you want to share with us before we wrap this segment up, sir?
Yeah, I know a lot of schools started started classes on yesterday. So traditionally, the first day of classes on the collegiate level is the worst day of football practice you could ever imagine in your life. Because you gotta think, for some of those guys, they've been in training camp, and training camp usually ends that Friday or Saturday before school starts. And then I know at Prairie View and Grambling, different schools, they'll have the football players go help the freshmen move into the dorm. The other thing is that first day is, some of those guys, it's just a walking around campus, the distractions, the sundresses. And, man, when they come to football practice, they got to talk about what they saw. And the teacher that they had, oh, man, this class, man, ain't a bit more word than what to do on 46 power than like, say, the Easter Bunny or something. So, it's, that first day of class, and we would always I tell my son, hey, man, sit on the front row or right in front of the teacher. I told Adam, tell your teacher you have a vision problem and you cannot sit in the back of the class. Tell your teacher your dad coached college football and he is crazy, and if he finds out that I'm not sitting on the front row or the middle of the class, he's going to have an issue with me, and he's going to ask you that. So can I please sit on the front row or right in the middle of the class? So that's some things, and we would tell our guys, we call it sitting on the teeth. So that's, them first day of class is going to be an issue for some guys. And then, me and one of my college teammates, we were talking about training camp. And we were on campus, it was like us, volleyball, and a few band people, and we had a hurricane come through. And, Mike, we went live practice on the gym floor. Like, on the wooden floor, we were tackling in there. So I'm like, kids nowadays would never have to go through that. But, like I say, for us, it was a badge of honor to say, man, we went full gear tackling to the ground on the gym floor. So that, like I say, the training camp stories, it's some horror stories if you go back a little bit. But now, some people only tackle maybe 3 times before their first game. And it'll show up a little bit with the bad angles, the not wrapping up, because you don't wrap up in practice. They do what we call third practice, where you hit, you get to the guy and show that you would have made the tackle. But, like I say, it's different when you tackle a joker that weighs 220 pounds that's trying to get that extra yard and you trying to stop him from getting it. So it's going to be interesting to see how many missed tackles there are and how many yards are made after missed tackles. But it's going to be a good football season. I'm looking forward to it. From middle school, high school, I'm not real big into pro football, but I'll follow some of those games as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it's exactly an exciting time of year, and we can't wait to get things kicked off. We do thank you for joining in with us. He is Coach Heist Northern, our football guru, analyst for the Open Mic Broadcast Network. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince, reminding you that you can follow me on Twitter X at The Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And do check out our 24-hour stream on the website at obnradio.com. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.